in general, right? I mean, we're expecting people to check email all day long, and then considering email checking working. Well, you know, in our world, email is like your shallow work, right? I didn't hire you to check email. I didn't hire you to sit in meetings, right? I hired you to write code or to interview people, you know, or whatever these things are. And we should be, as employers, maximizing that. But because we're not training our managers to do that, we're training them to just be physically present, and it's a cheap way to manage that.
Coming up, we'll hear from a couple of people who don't have the luxury of rolling out of bed, turning on the computer, and being instantly at work, a retail cashier and a Foodora courier. That's coming soon. And beyond the logistics of remote work, what about the psychological aspects, navigating workplace politics when you're away from work?
Good afternoon. Here are the headlines from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. I'm Tim Weeks. The province says it's listened to a growing number of people worried they could lose their homes because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, the NDP government announced it was setting up a $500 a month rebate for renters for 4 months. The money will be overseen by BC Housing. Premier John Horgan says there will also be a moratorium on evictions during the current crisis, with few exceptions. A state of emergency has been declared by the North Coast Regional District. It was joined by the Council of Haida Nations, Skidegate and Old Nasset Band Councils. New measures include allowing residents physical contact with those inside the same household only, and all those who are not working in essential services were asked to stay home and shelter in place. And Metro Vancouver says too many people still aren't getting the message about physical distancing. It has completely closed Bray Island Regional Park to help control the spread of the virus. Those on the island could be asked to show proof that they reside there. Metro Vancouver has also closed the parking lot at the Delta Heritage Air Park, as well as the parking lots at Dees Island and Boundary Bay Regional Parks. Officials say more parks will be closed if people continue to disregard the instructions of BC's health officers. In the weather for Vancouver, a mixture of sun and cloud today with a high of about 10 degrees. More cloudy skies in the forecast for tomorrow with a high holding at about 10.
I'm Nora Young, and this is Spark. Today, like many people around the world, we're working from home.
Getting ready for work this morning, got dressed, had some breakfast, but not going anywhere. Usually I'd take a city bike or maybe go hop on a streetcar. But today I'm just clearing my kitchen table and setting up my laptop.
Okay, it's day 3 of working from home, and I'm going to make myself a Chemex coffee, as I do every morning anyway.
Oh wait, are you gonna bring me coffee?
No.
We know that many people cannot do their jobs remotely, and there are many freelancers, self-employed folks, and gig workers who always work remotely, but now can't. It's complicated, uncharted territory for industries and individuals right now, and governments all over the world are attempting legislation and pledging aid to make sure people are financially protected and supported. This past week, we talked to 2 people, one in Calgary and one in Toronto, who've had to continue to work while most of the city around them shuts down. While restaurants are closing and many of us are hunkering down in our homes, food delivery couriers are going out into the world, doing their jobs to keep us fed. Despite the risk they're exposing themselves to, a lot of these workers don't have a choice but to continue working. John Marcucci is a master's student in counseling who delivers for Foodora to pay the bills.
I still have to pay my tuition, I still have to pay rent. You know, these things aren't going away. So I'm taking the precautions that the kind of city is mandating at this point in terms of social distancing. I'm not putting packages down without making contact with customers, and vendors and staff at restaurants are doing that as well. And then when I'm only doing kind of short shifts, around 2.5 hours in length, and when I go home, I'm kind of like fully disinfecting my phone, thoroughly washing my hands. It's different today because, of course, all restaurants have closed their dining options. You're seeing that, restaurants are completely empty, and there's usually just one employee running the front area. And I had one today be very kind of cautious in terms of their interactions, and they were kind of like, okay, the food is over there, and they're taking like a very wide berth around me, and you don't take any of this really personally at this point. I remember when someone did it 5 days ago, and I was a little like, oh, that seems a little extreme, but now it seems like this is the new norm. I started just leaving the bag or the package basically just on their stoop or right in front of their door, and just saying, there it is, I'd like to make as little contact as possible. I think people are starting to adjust to that as well and realizing that is the new norm. Because I had one 2 days ago where I tried to present the package in a way that they could easily grab the handles, and I had my hand underneath the bag, and they ended up going underneath the bag as well. And they ended up feeling bad, and I felt bad for them, and it was like, we're just going to go wash our hands. But, to make it as clean and careful as possible, and so we're not feeling as though we're going to catch each other. I think, it is best to just kind of leave the package and take a few steps back. It seems strange, but it's for keeping the community safe, it's necessary.
John may be taking all the necessary precautions to deliver food to customers, but if he gets sick, will he be taken care of?
There was mention of it in an email once, but I really don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, they've offered it, but I don't know how possible it is to attain it. My guess is it would be extremely difficult. I'm not terribly concerned because I'm young, and I certainly just don't want to pass it on to anyone who's a lot more precarious with their health. It would be unfortunate if I were to get sick and have to self-quarantine for 14 days, so I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I do want to try and live my life as close to I can get it without, harming anyone as possible. I have noticed even in myself, the more kind of shut down the city gets, there is a sense of anxiety about it too, which I could see some people getting quite triggered by, quite activated by. And I hear people talking about being kind, and I think that's so important. That's so essential right now. Take the precautions, but also let's not lose our sense of common decency and politeness and wanting to reach out and make a connection with people. I think that's really important right now, and that can so easily be something that's lost with all the anxiety and tension, obviously, with these circumstances.
John Marcucci has been braving the streets of Toronto to get food orders to folks that we spoke to him earlier this past week. Meanwhile, in Calgary, Kristen found herself out on the front lines running a retail store that had yet to shut its doors.
Everything really kind of hit home last weekend. I went out for dinner with my roommates. We'd been planning it for a little while and figured that if we didn't do it now, it probably wasn't going to happen. So dinner was great. The restaurant was full. You couldn't tell anything had changed. And then we went for a beer afterwards. That's when we noticed that things were different and we probably shouldn't be out. Come Monday, everyone I started speaking to outside of work were setting up their computers at home and hunkering down. And I'm still going to work every day. I have some mixed feelings about it. As someone who's healthy and not immunocompromised or directly around anyone that is, the concern for myself is quite low. But I also am completely aware of the problem behind that thinking and knowing the importance of not being part of the problem by self-isolating. Right now, where I work, we have staff scheduled to clean every high-traffic surface of the store every 30 minutes. Most, if not all, the programs we have offered for staff and the clientele have been postponed. I remember leading the morning meeting about a week ago and letting staff know about the measures we'll be taking to keep ourselves and our shoppers safe. It seems like a very long time ago that I had that conversation. There's definitely a lot of confusion and pushback then about why we were being so extreme in the measures we were taking. But now everyone is on the same page, and we're all working together to keep the ball rolling. I'm personally fortunate enough to have accrued a decent amount of vacation days and still have all my sick days, so my immediate concern for not working isn't incredibly high. It's definitely there, but not in this moment. But many of my staff aren't in that position. They need to work as long as they can. They're stressed and worried about paying rent, as many people, especially in the service area, are feeling. That's why I don't mind going into work right now. I'm there to support them in any way I can, give them resources and options for what they can do in the meantime. Overall, though, the spirits have been quite high this week. I'm very proud of the team I work with. We've all been watching the restaurants and shops around us closing down, which has been hard. We often eat at the same places. We know the people that work there, so it's hard to see everyone suffering. But we're fortunate to have strong, optimistic individuals coming in every day, keeping the atmosphere light. Day by day is what I keep telling myself. It'll be what it'll be. My name is Kristen, and I'm a team leader at a retail store in Calgary.
We talked to Kristen, and before that we heard from John in Toronto this past week, and shortly after we talked to Kristen, her employer decided to close the store. You're listening to Spark from CBC Radio. I'm Nora Young, coming to you, well, from a little room off my kitchen. This week's episode is being made with all members of Spark in our own homes. And we actually started planning this episode a couple of weeks back. We thought it would be an interesting experiment, a test, in case we would all need to work from home someday. We didn't anticipate that so many of our colleagues at CBC would be working from home this week, and that our experiment would be reality. But things have been changing so quickly with this situation. They may have changed by the time you're hearing this. As journalists working apart from the live news cycle, we find ourselves in an interesting situation.